This is Deepak, and good morning to all of you. Today I'm going to go a little deeper down the rabbit hole into the matrix of existence, the divine matrix of existence, where you as a soul participate in an entangled web of relationships for the manifestation of infinite experiences. This is part of our series on everyday immortality. So, by the way, I also want to mention that this weekend, starting tonight actually, Chopra Home, Chopra Global, Chopra Center is doing a digital retreat, a digital weekend retreat. And we have a number of amazing people participating in it. So please be sure to join. And you can find out more about it by going to any Chopra Center website, chopra.com, etc. So let's continue with our topic, because today I'm going to talk about something that will take us a little deeper down, as I said, the rabbit hole, into the matrix of all existence. The matrix of all existence. Would you like that? Because only by actually understanding the exuberance and infinite possibilities inherent in existence can we get over any form of existential anxiety or suffering or fear of the constructs of things like death, things like fear of oblivion or extinction, which, by the way, is there in all beings, all conscious beings. And it's there, it's implanted, the fear of death and the fear of suffering is embedded in our consciousness in order for us to protect ourselves. There's a reason. Fear is an animal's response to threat. Anger is an animal's response to also threat of confrontation. Anger, jealousy, these are human emotions that in some way or another are perceived as threat to the individual existence. They're built into us. Jealousy is, according to some evolutionary biologists, just the subtle or unconscious fear of loss of reproductive chances. But then it extends to jealousy about everything. Jealousy about relationships, jealousy about money, jealousy about other people's success, on and on. These are toxic emotions. Fear, anger, hostility, resentment, grievances, guilt, shame, depression. And they're all associated with some degree of inflammation, and they compromise our immune system, and they make us more susceptible to both chronic illness, and we are recognizing right now to acute inflammatory storms with people who get infected with any bacterium or virus, including COVID-19. And the cure for all this is actually to discover the exuberance, the joy, the ecstasy, and the vitality and the enthusiasm for existence, for life, that goes with our journey to ourself. It's a journey without distance. The journey of the self to the self. Don't have to go anywhere. You're there right now. You can't stand where you already are. You can't move to stand where you already are. You can't move to get to where you already are. This is the most basic thing to understand. So when we get in touch with our fundamental existence, then of course we are holy and we are healed. And we've mentioned this many times, over and over again. So today I want to talk about the divine matrix. Divine matrix. If you read the hymns of the Rig Veda, there's a very beautiful hymn there, and it says, in Indra's heaven. In Indra's heaven. Indra is a god, a deity, an expanded awareness, and a state of being, a state of consciousness. And heaven, in this case, is the ideal understanding of that state of consciousness. So in Indra's heaven, there's a set of pearls so arranged that if you look at one of them, you can see all of them. And then if you keep looking at that one pearl, which is all the other pearls, infinite in the web, in the matrix of Indra's heaven, then if you look at one pearl, you see all the other pearls. And you also realize that that one pearl is a reflection of all the other pearls, and is in fact fundamentally all the other pearls, just looking slightly different. Actually, today we would call this the holographic universe. You are a hologram of the total universe. You just look a little different than everybody else. And that's because you're being viewed from a particular point of view. So I've said before, you and I are infinite beings with selective memories and selective imagination and selective identities linked to selective memories and selective imagination, while ignoring a lot of memories that are embedded in the matrix of existence, both personal and collective and universal, but we ignore them. And so we only ignore we only identify with certain memories. And usually they're emotional memories, strong emotional memories, good, bad, etc. So when we identify with certain memories and ignore everything else, then we create what we call is an evolving personality. And that evolving personality shows up as this body-mind, which is also evolving and which is also experiencing a changing world as a result of its perceptual activity and the interpretations of that perceptual activity and the emotions connected with that perceptual activity. So the body, mind, and the world evolve as a unified experience. What we call the physical world is the perception of our is the interpretation of our perceptual activity. And ultimately, it's our story. Who am I is a story, usually. It's not I am the ground and source of all existence, all experience. If you ask somebody, who are you? They don't say, I'm the source of all experience, I'm the generator of all experience that I have, I am the knower of all experience that I have, and all experience is made out of me, including the experience of a book or a microphone or a hand or a painting or a bookshelf or whatever. All experience is made out of I am. I am is modifying itself as mental and perceptual activity and volition and cognition, and we call that reality. And it's changing reality. But if you ask somebody, who are you? They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I am Deepak Chopra, or Paul Smith, or John Doe, or Mary O'Donoghue, or Shakuntala, or Virginia, or whatever. In that name is embedded a provisional story, which of course has infinite versions anyway. But we are stuck with one version, giving us a provisional identity and a provisional experience of a changing body and a provisional identity connected to a provisional changing perceptual activity within a narrow band of human experience that we call the physical world. So if we actually understand this process of mechanics of creation, and then we go into the matrix of the interrelatedness of all creation, and we see our role in it and our participation in it, then what we call creation changes. And there's freedom in that. The freedom to create personal reality, the freedom to participate in the creation of collective reality, and ultimately the freedom to be one with the source of all reality, infinite realities. So for this, of course, we need a different ontological perspective. We cannot say anything I've said if you believe that matter is the ontological primitive. But if you understand that consciousness, pure consciousness, is the ontological primitive, it then differentiates into species-specific modes of knowing and experience, which are the consciousness of sentient beings. And this consciousness of sentient beings is a differentiated aspect of one absolute consciousness. And this matrix of conscious beings is part of the matrix of the projected universe. Then we know that we can, as humans, consciously participate in changing the expression of the matrix, which we call the physical universe. But for this, we need to have a deeper understanding of exactly what I'm saying, the real truth of who we are beyond our perceptions. What is it that makes perception possible? What is it that makes thought possible? What is it that makes emotions possible? What is it that makes feelings and sensations possible? And you know, it's consciousness, it's awareness modifying itself as that experience. But the experience you're having right now is through the conditioned mind, which actually limits the experience to a narrow bandwidth of activity, perceptual activity, out of an infinite range of activities. So who you are as a human being, I'm not saying as a human mind, as a human body, I'm not saying that, or a human doing. Who you are as a human being is a bandwidth of possibilities within an infinite range of possibilities. But if you could somehow cross the boundary of the bandwidth of personal identity and personal experience and personal feelings, emotions, imagination, and everything that we do as a result of being biological robots and the conditioned mind, not the meta-human, but the human. Meta means beyond. Okay, so meta-human means beyond the conditioned mind. If we could transcend to that source, which is beyond the conditioned mind, which is the source of that conditioned mind, then we would break the leaky margins of the window of perceptual activity. So right now, imagine that you are in a gigantic, enormous, almost infinite in diameter spaceship. And it's hurtling through intergalactic space in the midst of a starscape. Imagine that this is the ultimate dreamscape. And then imagine there's almost an infinite number of little peepholes in that, and you have the ability to look from one peephole to another. And you're seeing the same infinite dreamscape, infinite intergalactic territory. But because of where you're looking at from, the peephole, you see a particular scenery. And that particular scenery is what you take to be everyday reality. Okay? With bits of sensory experience, we cannot experience the whole. So we see a narrow bandwidth and we take that to be everyday reality. And with bits of sensory experience, we obviously will never be able to see the whole. We have to transcend the bits of sensory experience to get to the whole and then choose the peephole you want to look out from. And once you do that, you'll see that you actually, even as a body-mind, are part of the scenery. Okay? Even the body-mind is an experience through the peephole. What is looking through the peephole is a species-specific consciousness. And that species-specific consciousness has no location in space-time. Even though I'm saying, I'm creating this metaphor of this gigantic, enormous, almost infinite in diameter spaceship. But the spaceship has no boundaries, ultimately. The boundaries are translucent, semi-permeable membranes that allow bits and pieces of cognition and perception and understanding and empirical facts and then rational thought and then constructs around what the sentient being, which is formless, infinite aspect of infinity, infinite possibilities, that is what is looking out at the world. And as it looks out at the world, it sees as part of that both the subject, traditional subject, which is the body-mind, and the traditional object, which is the world and other people. So right now, that which I call my awareness is aware of this body-mind, is aware of the microphone, is aware of the screen, is aware of all the wonderful notes that you're sending to me right now. It's aware of all that simultaneously. This body-mind, those paintings, this microphone, this shirt, that statue, that screen, you and me as the body-mind are all being experienced by the awareness that is identifying itself at the moment with Deepak Chopra. But that awareness is not here because this is in that awareness. Okay? Both the traditional subject and the traditional object of experience are projections of a sentient being which is infinite but species specific, and in this case as humans, culture specific, religion specific, all made up, by the way, all made up, gender specific, age specific, all of that. Don't worry about that. You are the conscious infinite being, an aspect of infinity, a holographic window through which you experience the body-mind and everything else that goes with the body-mind. So you, as a conscious being, split yourself into both the subject of experience and the object of experience. You are both the subject and the object. Let me show you a little experiment. Okay, now I'm moving my forefinger against my thumb. So in this case, my forefinger is the observer and my thumb is the observed. And what am I doing to have this experience? I'm localizing awareness to the forefinger as the subject of experience and the thumb as the object of experience. Localizing mentally. Okay, but I am is both the forefinger and the thumb. In fact, I am is the sensation that is giving me the experience of the forefinger and the thumb. Now I shift my attention to the thumb and I actually make the thumb the observer and the finger the observed. This is the knower and that's the known. This is the observer, that's the observed. This is the seer, that's the scenery. See, subject and object are both you. Now take that and extend it to the microphone. I am both Deepak Chopra and the microphone. I am the awareness in which I am the subject and the object. This is the subject, that's the object, but they're all both projections of I am. So I am Deepak Chopra is a projection, I am the microphone is a projection. Who am I? I am infinite possibilities, holographically experiencing this point of view. You are the infinite being with a particular point of view determined by your conditioned mind. Go, as I've said before, beyond the secret alleys, the dark alleys, the ghost-filled attics, past your memories. And then you find the matrix. And the matrix is embedded with cryptographic encryptions that we can call the soul. The soul is the I am before it becomes I am Deepak Chopra, I am this hand, I am this microphone, I am everything else that I observe, because everything I observe is a modification of I am, including I am Deepak Chopra as a modification and a changing, provisional modification, just as everything else is. So, this is very important. In every act of perception is born the perceiver and the perceived. In every act of seeing is born the seer and the scenery. In every act of knowing is born the knower and the known. In every act of observation is born the observer and the observed. In every act of thinking is born the thinker and the thought. In every act of feeling is born the feeler and that which is felt. If you get that, then you see that that which we call the seer and the scenery, in every snapshot of experience, is totally independent. Totally independent. This body-mind as the seer and this experience as the scenery, right now, is a snapshot. And even as I say it, by the time you hear, that snapshot is over. By the time you see, taste, smell, sense, it's over. So that seer and that scenery is gone. So what's really happening? What's really happening is consciousness is constantly splitting itself into new observers, new modes of observation, and new scenery. New knowers, new modes of knowing, and this is happening eternally and now. And it is doing this through differentiation. The one absolute consciousness is differentiating into different aspects of itself, like a hologram, like a point of view, a window of experience. And every sentient being is a window of experience, with its matrix of experiences and its participation in the divine matrix as a divine code of intelligence. As a divine code of intelligence. So, I've been reading, as you know, this book by Dr. Kazumo, and I've been mentioning this book every day. I'm looking for it right now. It's somewhere here, The Divine Code of Life. And in that book, the author, the Japanese author, says very clearly that body, mind are one, but soul is separate. And soul is what we call the divine code embedded as an encryption in the matrix of all these codes. And by understanding the entanglement of all these codes, we see how the universe is created every moment, and in a different shape, in a different color, in a different size, in a different experience, because it's the entanglement of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and their interpretations and their feelings that come with that creates the projected experience. But since we are entangled with other encryptions that are codes of existence in the matrix that we call DNA or whatever, which is actually a localized experience of the entanglement of possibilities. But it's not the only experience. Simultaneously, there are many experiences available. All you have to do is shift. And what do you shift? A thought, a feeling, a sensation, an image, an imagination, a desire, a memory, an intention. This is the basis of dharana, which is focused awareness, dhyan, which is meditation, samadhi, which is transcendence. Sankalp is the seed of intention which triggers the expression of the cryptographic encrypted code that gives experience. Subtle intention. Subtle intention raises the hand. Subtle intention asks me to speak. Subtle intention says, go to sleep now. Subtle intention says, move your bowels. Subtle intention says, walk. Subtle intention says, imagine. So let's do an experiment right now. Just imagine whatever comes to you when you silently say to yourself, my mother. Just say that. Okay, so what you said just now is a thought, my mother. Now see, there's an image associated with that. There's a feeling associated with that. Maybe there's a sound, her voice. Maybe when I think of my mother, I can even smell her skin. I can feel her skin, her fragrance, the tone of her voice, the eye movements, the body language, the gestures. Just that one word creates an entanglement of experiences, feelings, thoughts, images, emotions, sensations in the body. Why? Because the word mother is the entanglement of a code of experience. Of a code of experience. Even you, as a body-mind, is the entanglement of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, a code of experience, interacting with other codes of experience. Are you guys getting this? Okay? Are you getting this? And those codes of experience include animals, plants, sentient beings, bacteria, COVID virus. That's the maximum diversity of the expression of cryptographic encrypted codes of experience as units of consciousness in a matrix of conscious beings. Well, I hope that made some sense because it involves a lot of repetition, a lot of reinforcement, a lot of memory, and a lot of imagination. Here's one thing that you might want to remember, because people ask these questions. They say, if I had a previous lifetime, why don't I remember it? Right? And the great teachers of the wisdom tradition say, a lapse in memory is not a lapse in awareness. That's a direct quote from Nisargadatta Maharaj, a great teacher of Vedanta. He says a lapse of memory is not a lapse of awareness. So if I asked you, what were you doing 3 weeks ago, Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m.? Who were you with? What were you thinking? What was your experience? In all likelihood, you won't be able to tell me what we were doing 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. unless it was a very important event. Maybe it was your birthday and you had a birthday party. But otherwise, you don't remember and you don't need to remember. If I asked you, do you remember when you learned to speak the English language? Do you remember when you learned how to recite the song A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Or do you remember when you learned to count 1, 2, 3, 4? You don't. But you're counting now and you're speaking now. So you did learn and you were aware but now you don't remember. Do you remember how you learned to walk? How you toilet trained? Do you remember your life as an embryo? Today we are told that, embryos experience sounds and even colors and shapes and emotions of their mother, who's of course entangled in relationship with others. So even an embryo is having all that experience, but you don't remember your life as an embryo. You don't remember your life as an infant. You don't remember your life as most of your childhood. Although if I asked you to remember some significant things in childhood, remember the house you were in, the school you went to, some friends, and suddenly some images will crop up. Where are these images that crop up when I ask you to think of your school or your childhood or your parents? They're there in the Akashic field. They're there in the matrix of possibilities. And they're stored there without any energy because they don't exist as memories until you actualize them. And then, of course, there's generation of energy, information, experience. But the memory itself, which is called a sanskara, a vasana, karma, is embedded in the code, and it exists only in the matrix of possibilities. And through selective acts of attention and intention, we actually actualize the codes into experience. So, if you like this conversation, then what we call our personality is a selective forgetting and a selective remembering in a state of awareness that never goes to sleep. The awareness is there before birth, during what we call a lifespan, during death, post-death. Maybe the memory is not there. Like you wake up in the morning and you know that you've dreamt. You know that you dreamt. You know vaguely what the dream was. And yet, you can't remember the dream. Right? So you were aware in the dream, but now you can't remember the dream. Similarly, you were aware in deep sleep. There was no experience, there was no image, there was no thought, but if suddenly there was some change in sensation in the body, then it would come to the surface of your awareness from the depths of your being, where there was awareness without conscious experience. So, when we learn to become a witnessing awareness of both the body-mind and that which goes with the body-mind, and we cultivate that witnessing awareness in waking, dreaming, and sleeping, then we recognize the waking, dreaming, and sleeping is actually the cycle of experience, incarnation, life experience, death, deep sleep that we call death, dreams that we call lokas and bardos, and then reincarnation that we call physical reality, but it's all actually a shifting state of being all the time, ceaselessly and now. Ceaselessly and now. So, my friends, if you want to practice a little recapitulation, that'll help you go into the matrix, because at some point you'll say, who is recapitulating? What is recapitulating? Who is imagining? What is imagining? Does that being ever go away? No, that being has imagined itself into butterflies and eagles and dinosaurs and primates and chimpanzees and giraffes and elephants and bugs and bees and viruses. That infinite being is the ultimate matrix of all matrices that are manifesting as experiences. The word matrix is good. Matrix, matter, mata, mother, meter, mate, matter, time, music, measurement. They are the modifications of the matrix into experience. But you are even beyond the matrix. You are the source of the matrix that is allowing you to have a holographic view of the universe, which includes your body-mind at this moment, changing. Go beyond the matrix, and you are the source of the matrix. You are the source of the matrix. And that source is not subject to birth and death. That source is infinite and beyond. So how do we get there? Be like a child. Go back to innocence. And today I've just randomly opened my copy of Tagore, one of my copies of Tagore, and this is what I came up with, exactly what I wanted to share with you. But I randomly opened the book. And so it says, on the seashore of endless worlds, children meet. The infinite sky is motionless overhead, and the restless water is boisterous. On the seashore of endless worlds, the children meet with shouts and dances. They build their houses with sand, and they play with empty shells. With withered leaves they weave their boats and smilingly float them on the vast deep. Children have their play on the seashore of worlds. They know not how to swim, they know not how to cast nets. Pearl fishers dive for pearls, merchants sail in their ships, while children gather pebbles and scatter them again. They seek not for hidden treasures, they seek not how to cast nets. The sea surges up with laughter, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. Death-dealing waves sing meaningless ballads. Death-dealing waves sing meaningless ballads. As COVID is doing that right now. Death-dealing waves sing meaningless ballads to the children, even like a mother while rocking her baby's cradle. The sea plays with children, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. On the seashore of endless worlds, children meet. Tempest roams in the pathless sky. Ships get wrecked in the trackless water. Death is abroad and children play. On the seashore of endless worlds is the great meeting of children. So, my friends, we are all children of the divine, playing on the seashore of endless worlds. We only have to return to that state of innocence and see the world with fresh eyes, with the eyes of wonder, surprise, bewilderment, joy, love, and connection. And when we do that, we will be holy and we will be healed. Okay. Until tomorrow. Thanks for joining me as usual. Hope says we are all bodhisattvas. Yes, we are. The beginner's mind. We are the alpha and the omega and everything in between. Until tomorrow.